All right, everybody, here we go with the review. I just had an opportunity to watch the show. Had to go to work first, and then I was able to watch the show. But here we go with the review. So we start out, and David is still waiting to see Jeffrey, and he's angry with the guard. He's saying, "I am Judge David Harrington. I'm tired of waiting. You." And just as he's getting into it with the guard, here comes the DA, and he's being smart, but he lets David get in there to see Jeffrey. Meanwhile, Jeffrey's in there with Justin in the interrogation room, and Jeffrey's like laid out on the desk, and he kind of gets up. He's kind of out of it because Justin had knocked him out, and Justin's like, "Why? I put you to sleep," and he's like, "What?" You know how Jeffrey is. He kind of acts kind of what's the word, aloof. Sometimes he's like, "What?" And so he Justin says, "You need to know that I can be as crazy as you make me." Um, he starts talking about, I've sacrificed all this stuff. You have given up all this stuff for you. I gave up my marriage, and Jeffrey's like, "I didn't ask you to do that." And Jeffrey's like, "You need to not take me back to my cell and not talk to me again." And you know, Justin's not having. He's like, "Too bad, you're stuck with me." And so Justin decides to start choking him out again and getting real aggressive. And in comes David, and David's like, What's going on here?" And Justin's just so calm. He's like, "Jeffrey got rough, and tell him, Jeffrey." And Jeffrey just goes on ahead and says, "Yeah, I got rough. I did resist." Um, and David's looking like, "What?" And he still wants Justin's name and badge number, which Justin gives, because Justin at this point is just like, "I don't care." Um, and so Justin goes on, and David wants answers. He's like, "What is going on here?" Um, and finally, Jeffrey has to come clean you know, because David had picked up on the fact that Justin had called Jeffrey by his first name, and Justin just talked his way out of it. "Well, there are two Harringtons in the room. Like, if he could have said Mr. Harrington, but there are two Harringtons in the room, so I said Jeffrey, so to avoid confusion." And yet David didn't really buy that, and so David is able to get it out of Jeffrey. He says, "Okay, so my mom showed a tape of Justin in my room, and after we had done it." And David's he doesn't say what, but his face is like, "What the are you into?" Um, Jeffrey just put him in a bad position, and David's gonna try to help him out. If he says, "Well, I'm gonna try to get you out of here. That's what I'm gonna focus on, and I'm gonna help you with Justin." And he's like, "No, no, I don't need any help with him." And he asks him, "Are you in love with him?" "No." David says, "Are you into him?" And Jeffrey's like, at times." And I'm like, okay, so Jeffrey's not in love with Justin, but he does like to have him around for other uses. You get what I mean? So let's get to the hospital, and Mitch has brought Benny over to the hospital to see Veronica, and he's really just kind of having a field day with this. You don't get on camera. You know how you is.
I know how I am.
Okay.
Well,
And
that girl
so,
doesn't act like she's pregnant. I'm just gonna say
oh, okay. I haven't got to that point.
that. Okay.
Okay. Veronica's just being extra. She's like my hero. Like, this is not even what she does. She's
Kind
not
of.
like demure or whatever you want to call it. She doesn't. She's bold and hateful. So this my hero stuff is kind of like give it a rest.
Trying to
Eh.
find another way to get some.
Mm-hmm. And so she goes into saying my husband wouldn't have pulled me out of there. My son wouldn't have done it. Well, they have a problem with me because I try to make people better. And I'm like, okay, you try to make people better.
And then
And then
say,
Benny's you're a control freak, and the background music like changed. Like, okay, like this, I don't. She didn't like it, but
no.
she didn't go off. But it was
She
clear
went
that she
off
didn't
in
like
her
it.
head. She went
Yeah,
off.
she was like, yeah. And then she apologizes to Benny, for the stuff she said, and because a couple of seasons ago she got mad at him because he wouldn't really jump when she called him, and she apologized to him. I lied. I wasn't faking it. I'm like, okay, just
Good,
don't go
good.
there. Don't go
Then
there.
he
We
said, I
don't care.
know I'm good.
And then she starts pushing it again, and then she asks, "Oh, how is little Hannah?" And
He
he
said,
said,
watch
"Watch
it.
it." Yeah, he said, "Watch it," and she's like, "I was being sincere," and I'm like, "No, how was that sincere? You're going." That wasn't sincere. She's being sarcastic, like because she doesn't like Hannah because Hannah's a maid and all that, and then so Veronica wants him to pick her up some things from her house, and she's like, everything is labeled Monday, Tuesday. I'm like, okay, that's going a bit too far when you have everything you're gonna wear for the week labeled, and that's kind of
Goes to
crazy.
show what kind of person
Yeah.
he is.
And then how did he and I think she mentioned Melissa, and she called her son's fiance, and Benny's like, Jeffrey is gay. He tried to kiss me,
He
and
said, no, he's not.
and
And
she's like, no, he's not. And he said that boy tried to kiss me. And if you weren't watching, Candace had told Jeffrey, well, I'm going to send a man over here for you, and you just open the door and kiss him. And, Benny just happened to, come to Candace's place at the time and it just, that's why that happened. And, so when Benny gets out of the hospital room, and Mitch is out there, and he's like, what? She didn't write you a check? And he's like, you can work that. Hit her up for that truck. You could get a lot out of this. and and I think he is trying to stall to keep from asking his uncle for that truck because his family is crazy, and Benny's crazy for wanting to get involved with him. And so we get to Landon and Charles. It wasn't a long scene. They're in a limo, and Landon's like, "Well, I cleared your schedule. I cleared your morning, and now you'll be able to have a late night." And Landon's somehow he's trying to say, "Oh, you can spend it with somebody," and and Charles was obviously he probably was thinking that, okay, did you get Candace? And Landon's like, no, I'm talking about me. We've stayed up and got drunk before. And Charles is like, no, I just want to go to sleep. Landon's just doing too much now. Okay, and so let's get to the hotel. And this was like a short scene. And so Erica comes to the hotel to give Gia the clothes. And she charged these clothes to David's credit card, the titanium card. She did it. Because she doesn't have any money other than she charged that to his card. And Erica's like being real, she's talking real big and being real bold and all that, and Gia asks her, is she your pimp, talking about Candace? And she's like, Erica's like, no. and she doesn't know that Candace is standing right behind her, and when she finds out, she's back to scared mode, and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And Candace is like, do you want me to slap you? You don't say sorry when you knew all along what was going on when you were in with Warlock. And you know, Erica, she's scared, and she gets out of there after Candace tells her, you get that money, you work, David, you get that 100K there, because I don't know how I'm going to do that. And Candace is, obviously, it's like, I don't care, you do it. I don't know how you're going to do it either, but that's your problem. You just need to get it. And so Candace has this other girl, Gia. She has her terrified. I mean, it's like, and she's telling her, this is the last time we'll talk in public. In public, you don't know me. And so then the police come up to Candace and like, you're under arrest. You're under arrest. And she's like, what am I under arrest for? And they're all like, please don't make a scene. This is a nice place. And this cop, he's like 4 foot something, and I'm like, come on, Stumpy, how are you gonna be an arresting officer? You need to be a desk sergeant. And though, yeah, she was right there, so she probably was more cover. She probably was his cover in case something popped off, because she was quite a bit taller than him. Yeah, so I guess she was under. I'm guessing she was undercover. Maybe not. Okay, they were Vice. Yeah, they were Vice. And so he does say, well, this guy said you robbed him, and Candace thought she was just gonna get away with it, and this is the guy that she robbed. I think it was in the first episode of the season, and she was like, oh, you can't do nothing. I know who you are. And apparently he did go ahead and call the police on her, so she's going to end up in there. In the next episode, we see that she's going to be in the jail cell, well, the holding cell, whatever, with Quita. Um, and then we get a scene with Hannah and Catherine, and Hannah's like, did you try to get that man ask me out? And Catherine, doesn't answer the question at first, but finally she just said, yes, I did. Yeah, I did. And Hannah just doesn't want a life. She just wants to sit around and be angry all the time, and she hasn't even mentioned going to church or anything. So I guess her occupation now is just to be angry and bitter, and yeah, yeah, and her main occupation is to get into it with Candace. So I'm sure she'll be getting into it with Candace so, again rather soon, because she can't seem to avoid doing that. Now, and here we get the scene with Jim and this assistant DA, and she walked in the room like, okay, let's do this, and he says she looked formal, and she really didn't. Um, and we find out that she was a prostitute, and that Jim had her record wiped clean, and how she paid for that. She paid to have her record expunged, but she was breaking the law to get her record expunged. Okay, and so she's saying, well, I'm getting married. He's a judge, and Jim's talking about the judge. Well, he's old enough to be your grandfather, and I'm like, does it really matter? You're older than her, Jim. I mean, you're making fun of somebody else. And that's what he said, and he acted like he was doing her a favor. So he wants her to make the record of Jeffrey and Wyatt agreeing to testify. He wants her to make that record disappear. And that's not enough for him. When she says yes, he's telling her to take off her clothes, and she's like, yeah, and she's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then finally she just, just like, oh, whatever. And she does it. But yeah, she did walk in like she was ready to do something. And okay. So we get to Veronica's house now. And Mitch is still trying to push Benny to play Veronica. He's like, look at this, look at all this. She has money. You could be living here. And Benny's like, no, no. And here comes Melissa. She comes out in her robe, and she wasn't expecting anybody to be there. And she starts in about Veronica and is she okay? And when she finds out that Veronica is okay, she's like, ugh. And so she she shows Benny upstairs to where Veronica's stuff is, and she shuts the door, and she starts coming on to him, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And like he doesn't know what's going on, like he hasn't done this before. And she goes into his wallet, and there's a condom in there, and Veronica's not going to be pleased at this, and it really serves her right, and she's really going to hit the roof when she finds out what has happened, because she says that she owes Benny, but it's pretty clear that she thinks that she owns Benny, and because right now he's the only person that's there for her, and she's gonna, like I said before, she's gonna flip the whole thing around like he owes her something. So let's get to Landon and this random woman in the bar. I guess she's a political operative or something, and she had been keeping track of Candace, and Landon's all mad, and he's talking about, she's a stupid bitch, and you're doing it once again. You're doing too much, and he's talking about how about Charles. Well, he just melts for her, and the woman he's talking to, she's like, "Wait a minute, you want him to melt for you?" And she tells him that's not gonna happen. He's 100% straight, and he's like, "Well, I've known some 100% straight guys who really weren't," and Landon is
He's so
crazy.
jealous of Candace.
Yeah, he is, and I'm like, I don't know what he's gonna do. He might try to sabotage Charles just because he doesn't want him, but he's gonna do something. He's gonna do something. And finally, we get to the end, and the end is Justin pounding on Wyatt's door. Open the damn door! Open the damn door! And Wyatt's like, get away from my door. And so Justin just busts in. He has a crowbar, and he's demanding all these answers. Why are you calling Jeffrey? Why are you calling him? I will beat you for trying to take what's mine. And Jeffrey had just, at the beginning had told Justin, stay away from me. I don't ever want you to talk to me again. And yet he's still like, oh, well, Jeffrey's mine. And so he has this crowbar, and he goes to swing at White with it, and they end up in a fight, and that's where the episode ends. So in the previews, I had said before that Candace is in the jail with Quita, and then we see Melissa, and now she's coming on to Mitch, and I'm like, okay, so you're going to just, she's just gone off the deep end. That's the review. That was the show, and I will see you again next week.